Today we're looking at a message that we have titled It is Enough. And we're looking at John chapter 6, the verse 5 to 13. That is where we're going to learn so much from. John chapter 6, verse 5 to 13. Then Jesus lifted up his eyes and seeing a great multitude coming toward him, he said to Philip, "Where shall we buy bread that these may eat?" But this Jesus said to test him, for he himself knew what he would do. Philip answered him, 200 denarii worth of bread is not sufficient for them, that every one of them may have a little. One of the disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, said to him, "There is a little lad here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 small fish. But what are they among so many people?" Then Jesus said, "Make the people sit down. Make the people sit down." Now there was much grass in the place, so the men sat down, in number about 5,000. About 5,000. Verse 11. And Jesus took the loaves, and when he had given thanks, he distributed them to the disciples, and the disciples to those sitting down, and likewise of the fish as much as they wanted. So when they were filled, he said to his disciples, "Gather up the fragments that remain, so that nothing is lost." Therefore they gathered them up and filled 12 baskets with fragments of the 5 barley loaves, which were left over by those who had eaten. So it is an awesome miracle that Jesus performed, feeding 5,000 people with basically nothing. And the element that was used appeared to be nothing, but yet in the eyes of God, it was sufficient. Now, considering the people who were fed by Jesus, these people came to the Lord and they heard Jesus speak. And not only did they just come to hear words that were spoken, but they also saw the various miracles that Jesus was performing, in a way that people were getting healed and all manner of things were happening. But it appeared that the miracle they saw and the words they heard, though they heard and they saw all right, but it did not really enter into their hearts so as to transform their minds and also to transform their lives. They came with the mindset to have God do something for them, or for God to do something to them. And that prayer was answered because their bodies were healed. But it appeared that after they have heard all that they heard, and after all those things has also been done for them, they failed to capture or to seize the moment so as to learn something, to apply it to their own lives. And so they found themselves in a state whereby after God has done something to them, they wanted to still depend on God for the rest of their life to do something for them. But in the wisdom and in the thing that brings joy to the heart of God, it is in what you do with yourself after he has done something to you. When you go to the book of Hebrews, he said that the Lord has said that I will never leave you nor forsake you. And he said that because the Lord has said that, we will also boldly say that what can man do to us? We will never be afraid. So the beauty of God and his children is whatever he says to us, we are able to capture it, capitalize on it, and use that same thing to transform our lives to higher height. But his delight is not for him to do something for us, and every day we keep going, that you continue to do that same for us. God is not pleased with that kind of life. That kind of life is a life for babies in him. But when you grow in Christ, he expects that once he does something for you, you should capitalize on that and continue to build something by your God. But when you see the people that these 5,000 and over people, one thing was done to them. And from there, they expected things to be done for them. They didn't know how to translate the miracle of Christ to make it a daily routine in their own lives by their God. David knew some of these things. So after the Lord has taught his hands to war and his fingers to do battle, David will stand and say that by my God, I can crush troops, and by my God, I will scale over wall. He wouldn't say that God carry me over, but he said that because the Lord has trained me, I'm able to translate his trainings into personal effects into a man's life. The other thing we also learn from this interesting gathering is that there are moments in our lives that we can have great moments with God. But yet, when we come up from that moment, it doesn't mean that the problems that we have automatically disappear. These people were at the feet of Christ. They saw Jesus perform miracles by healing people. But after the service was over, their need for food did not go away with the sickness that was in their body. So they've had an encounter with God, but yet the issues of life still continued. And what these people needed at that moment wasn't healing, but they needed food. That became their challenge in life. And so at that moment, what they could have done was for them to trust that we have come and have encounter with Jesus. He has provided healing. And so when healing comes, it means that health has also been restored. And when a man is healthy, he's supposed to provide for himself by the health that God has provided. And so the healing is not just in your body, but the healing is in your mind. Healing is in your perception. Healing is in your way of understanding, your abilities. And when that one is done for you by God, you should capitalize on these things and to provide. That's why come you say that he who is not able to provide for his own family, he's worse than an unbeliever. He didn't say he who God cannot provide for. No, God put you in a place after performing some miracle so that everyday miracle will be done by you. And now, when Jesus performed the miracle for them, I believe that his true intentions for healing them and performing miracles that they saw, his true intention wasn't just to provide miracle or to even, increase or multiply bread for them. Jesus is powerful. He doesn't need to do things to prove that he's powerful. So the aim of the miracle was not so that he could appear powerful before the people, but the true intention of the miracle was for them to learn. There was one scene after this miracle when Jesus was even speaking with the disciples, where he was telling that be careful about the yeast of the Pharisees. And that moment, the disciples were thinking among themselves that the man is telling us to be careful of the yeast of the Pharisees because we did not carry bread. And when Jesus got to know what they were thinking, he said that, how can you think this way? Have you forgotten about how I multiplied this bread and the fish for these people to the extent that you carried extra fragments from this? So Jesus said that the miracles I do, it should be a benchmark for you. It should be an example for you. So his intention to do miracles in our life is not so that he will appear powerful, but he wants you to learn so as to implement same in your life. Before we go into details of this event, when Jesus saw the multitude, the people, he asked a certain question. He said, where shall we buy bread to feed them? Where shall we buy bread to feed them? And so let's go to the scene of this event. The people were more or less on a desert environment. And that place, what was happening was that bread was virtually not available. There was no bakery on that desert where they found themselves, or that desolate place. And so when he was asking where would we find bread, it means that no matter how hard you try, that which you need to be able to feed and to be healthy and to have the right life, it is not available there. Secondly, it also meant that should it happen that you have even all the money in the world, you may have all the money, all right, but that money will become useless in that environment, because though you have the money, but the bread is not available. And that's a very important lesson, that as much as money is important, money is not everything. And so you must live your life in such a way that don't let money become your God, but you must learn to depend on God, because at the place where they found themselves, bread was not available, number one. Money wasn't also available. But at that moment, even if you had money, the bread to buy was not there. And it tells us in life how you can find yourself where you have all the money in the world, but a certain sickness can hit you, that all the money you have in the world will not be able to save you. So money is good, but money must not become the reason for our existence. When you go to Psalm 62 verse 10, Psalm 62 verse 10, he says that if riches increase, do not set your heart on them. If riches increase, do not set your heart on them. So it means that, yes, it is good to work and to make money and all that, but be careful that that money will not become your God in life. And then 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 17. 1 Timothy chapter 6, 17. Apostle Paul is speaking to Timothy, and he says that command, so you see, he's not just suggest, but command those who are rich in this present age not to be proud, nor to trust in uncertain riches, but trust in the living God who gives us richly all things to enjoy. And that's a profound statement, that you may be rich in this present age, but don't be proud. Don't put your trust in uncertain riches. It means that riches is good, but it is not enough. So don't trust in it, because it can be very uncertain. But I said, but you must trust in the living God. When you trust in the living God, he gives you richly all things to enjoy. He's able to provide that which money cannot provide. And so those are the few things I want us to learn from the beginning. Now let's go to the lessons that we can learn from this miracle of feeding the 5,000 men. And don't forget the statement, the 5,000 men. And as we have known it, in every service, the probability of the women being much more and the children being much more than men in terms of the meal is always high. So if the men that is being spoken about here is 5,000, then let's assume the women will be 10,000. And if the women will be 10,000, then the children that will also be there will be much more. And so this miracle is profound. So it's not just limiting to the 5,000. And so let's go into this miracle. And the first thing that we will learn, the first lesson we will learn from this miracle is what I called the power of a need. The power of a need. Everybody will need something, because we are talking about people who have just had an encounter with Jesus. But the moment that encounter ceased, a need was what was presented before them. And the purpose of a need in our lives is to force us to live life that is devoid of the glory of God. Whenever we are in need, it's a sign that at times the glory that God wants us to experience, we are not really living in that. And that is how a need presents itself in our lives. And so whenever we encounter a need, two minds emerge. Two minds emerge in every need. The first mind is a mind that continues to go down because of what they need but they lack. Because we don't have. And so you see the person's life deteriorating, going from bad to worse every time. And when you ask the person, why are you like this? The person will tell you that because I lack this thing, because I need this, but I don't have it. That is how come my life is the way it's supposed to be. And so one of the challenges that a need presents is that to one mind, it causes that mind to continue, that life to continue to go down. But there's another group of people who have the God kind of mind. And this kind of people, the need in their life become the reason why they chase after God. They go after God because they lack. They do things, they pursue life to be able to attain to greater heights because they saw a need. Somebody will say that and say that because I did not have it and therefore sickness killed me. Another person will say that because I was sick and I didn't have medicine, it led me to invent the medicine. And so in every need, two mindsets will always emerge. The one that will allow the need to drag them down, and then the one who will base on this need to rise to higher heights. And then the second thing has to be with the power of a search. The power of a search. Now, Jesus was going to do a miracle of feeding these 5,000 men. But interestingly, he wasn't going to command the bread from heaven to appear and so as to give it to the people. He was going to depend on that which was already available. And that is the beauty of a miracle. When you learn to know that which is freely given to you, that which is available, and then you base on that one to produce that which you need, it's a great miracle. So the power of search was engineered by Jesus. He depended on that which was available. But for that to happen, somebody had to search it out. Somebody had to search it out so as to find out which is already available. And the thing with God is this. Mostly, the things that he does for us, that is devoid of our personal input, we take them for granted. But the things that God does with us, when we know our part in that which is done, we take it seriously. That is how come when it comes to Jesus, another name was given to him. And that name is Immeasurable, which is God with us. God with us. When God is with us, and that's how he wants to do things, we are partners together with God. So that the things that he does for us, with us, those things last. And so he had to take someone to search, Andrew, to search and to know that there's a little boy who has this bread, who has this fish. And therefore they bring it to Jesus. And then the multiplication or the miracle starts. And so in every miracle, don't just take yourself out of the equation, but begin to think, what is it that I have that can be multiplied? And for that to happen, you must first of all learn to search out that which you have. And you'll be amazed as to what the little things can do.